So, Rollie, how viable is the Maduro government today? What are its main strengths, weaknesses, and sources of support?
I think the Maduro government is more viable than people think, even though, of course, the winner of the last election was not Maduro, and the winner, Machado, has just been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. But when you look at a government, you have to look at the institutions and the sources of support that Maduro does have. And for instance, the military. Military is a key. And as far as we can tell, the military still supports him. And he's, like all good dictators, is very careful to make sure the military gets paid regularly.
How does Venezuela's relationship with Iran and other external partners affect regime survival, regional dynamics, and international responses?
I think that relationship is really important to them. They've had a long, friendly relationship with Iran, both in terms of, sanctions busting Iranian oil and as well as the Iranians have a very important defense relationship with Venezuela. In fact, there's an Iranian-built and run drone factory in Venezuela. Hezbollah is there. The Quds Force, which of course is the elite force of the IRGC, Iranians' special forces, is there and very active in Venezuela, which poses a potential threat for the United States of America. This is very close to our homeland. And having Iran having that kind of a presence in Venezuela is not helpful to us.
How does the current Venezuelan situation compare to historic covert action episodes in Latin America in its aims, methods, and likely outcomes?
Well, it's very interesting because the current U.S. administration, Donald Trump, President Trump, has talked openly about having a covert action plan to stem the flow of drugs to the United States. And it's interesting in that he spoke of a covert action, and normally in the past, covert action means it's covert and we don't talk about it. Covert actions are often well known, but the U.S. government doesn't normally acknowledge them. There's what we call plausible deniability. One of the important things about this covert action is that if the U.S. administration is thinking of this covert action as doing something beyond stemming the flow of drugs, but are also thinking of regime change, that's something that I think that you have to think long and hard about and make sure, if you are talking regime change, that you have laid in a plan and that you have sufficient domestic support, including the military. I think historically we can look at other covert actions. Probably one of the most famous is the Bay of Pigs, where the story before it happened was all you have to do is light the spark and these rebellious groups are going to overthrow Fidel Castro. Well, it was a tragedy. It did not happen. I think it's an interesting covert action. A lot of the commentators have said, well, seemed to write about it as though nothing like this has ever happened. And yet there was a Peruvian shoot-down program in Peru that ran in the 90s and through the very early 2000s. And that basically did stem the flow of drugs via air to the United States. But as we saw in time, the drug dealers, they're very clever and they're very resilient, and they just quit flying their drugs in airplanes because they knew they were going to get shot down, and they used, human mules to carry the drugs across borders. So there's a great deal of resilience in the drug trade, and a great deal of money that motivates those in it to continue.
What would it take to topple the Maduro regime?
It would take a lot, and simply because the military seems to support him. He has some allies in Iran and Russia, although candidly, I think Russia, of course, is distracted at this point and has other things on its plate. Iran, likewise, has been diminished over the last 2 years because of actions taken by Israel as well as the United States. The attack on the nuclear facilities in Iran by the United States, I think, has put Iran on its heels, as well as the new government in Syria. The former government of Assad was very close to Iran. So the bottom line is regime change is really hard, and it will take a mass uprising supported by the military and the security services, I think, to affect regime change in Venezuela. I'm Rollie Flynn. I'm the president and CEO of the Arkin Group, which is a strategic intelligence and security company, and I'm currently the president emerita of the Foreign Policy Research Institute in Philadelphia, and a 30-year veteran of the CIA.